Warning: the following video contains explicit language which may be offensive to some viewers or inappropriate for children. The content within this video is intended for mature audiences only.
Jeff. Hope this year is better than it was last year. So yeah, today we got a few inches of snow. It stopped for a while and it's picking up again. Roads are kind of slippery, but you know, they're I think what I see more is people, you know, neighbors, people who, you know, live in homes and stuff like that. They have trucks that have plows. They've been going around plowing, doing what they can, I guess, to plow their neighbors out and stuff. And, you know, now's the time to, you know, you can make a little extra money if you want with your truck, if you got a plow, to go and help people. Or even, you know, clear out areas so they can drive on the roads. And I mean, you know, it's just because, you know, if they're not going to have as many people plowing, you know, the city, if the city's not going to have as many people plowing like they usually do, then, you know, it's going to fall on the people's laps to take care of things themselves. And, you know, I think now is the time, you know, you can take a little bit of an opportunity here to make a little extra cash, especially after you spend all that money for Christmas. So, speaking of money, I got this question that was tossed at me, which was delivered in arrogance. It's not the first time I've been asked this question, okay, you know, and the question was, what do you think the S in SNAP is for, okay? And immediately I recognize that as a MAGA nut, okay? Because they always start off with a trap. They lay a trap. Okay, and the question is the trap. Because they're trying to drag you into an argument. They're not interested in hearing your side or your opinion or anything like that. They're trying to suck you into a trap where you can't argue your way out of it. You know, I've got enough experience being online to recognize this bullshit when it happens. So anyway, I didn't answer that question because I figured, you know what, I'm going to talk about it on today's video because I think people really ought to understand that this question on the surface is about the same as someone just judging a book by its cover. Without reading the contents of that book, they don't really understand what the hell the story is about. Okay, you understand what I'm saying? They're looking at it in a two-dimensional way, which, you know, when the whole idea of SNAP being created, or food stamps as it was originally called, was that people cared about other folks being able to feed, you know, not to starve, right? I mean, we were supposed to be a Christian country to help the poor, right? And that program has, you know, for the most part, been a lifeline to a lot of individuals and families and children, stuff like that, you know, with those families, to be able to eat, okay? And over the years, you know, Republicans have chipped away at that. You know, they feel like that's, you know, that's, you know, dipping into government. You know, people should get, you know, pick themselves up by their bootstraps and yada, yada, yada. You know, you've heard all that shit, okay? This is that attitude right there, which, you know, says a lot about what they think a Christian is, which is not a Christian at all. Okay, they would be happy to cut food stamps away from people. Now, because they renamed it SNAP, okay, it doesn't change the necessity to have it, because, yeah, it's supplemental, with the S meaning in that, okay? It's supplemental, but there's more to the fucking problem than just having it in addition to the income you're getting. Some people don't have an income anymore because they're out of a job. So they lose their job. You want to take away the SNAP benefits they were getting? You know, that's like taking away someone, you know, this is comparable to, you know, when you take someone's food stamps away because they got a job, or, you know, they got this low-paying job. It's like making someone exchange their car for a bicycle after they lose their home in a fire. I mean, what sense does it make? You know? I mean, you just want to make their situation worse? So yeah, it is supplemental in the way they name it. But the thing of it is that it's a problem that goes beyond the name. It's a problem that is getting worse in this country, okay? And that because it says it's a supplemental nutritional, you know, program, okay, just because it says that doesn't mean that's the be-all and end-all of the problem. No, there's another side to that fucking problem. And that problem is corporations. You can't get people off of SNAP if you don't give them a job. And if you can't get them off SNAP because they have a job, then that means the job has to pay the money that they should be getting to live in this country. Make sense? All right, so if you're really bitching and complaining about, oh, there's too many people on food stamps or SNAP, okay, the answer is quite clear. You need to fuck around with these goddamn companies and force them to pay what they owe, to pay these people what they're due. Okay, you got to pay them the wages that it takes. If it takes $20 an hour to survive in this country for a year, then goddamn it, you better pay them fucking people $20 an hour. You know, and you know it wouldn't help. I mean, it would help if you would fucking give them a few extra benefits on the side, like maybe cover them for certain things, you know, like they used to do. No, it's like everybody today, it's in it for themselves. It's selfishness. Greed and selfishness are the things that's killing this country at its core. And for a nation that wants to consider itself a Christian country, that's shameful. That is so fucking shameful. It's like you want to embrace the 10 deadly sins, or you know, the 7 deadly sins, and you still want to be called a Christian because you know, it's like no. That's not the way it works. Okay? That's not the fucking way it works. If you're a Christian, then you got to live by that principle. You got to breathe that principle. Okay? You have to be an angel of God, basically, on this earth, to do exactly what Jesus was doing when he was here, okay? Helping, teaching, being there for these folks. Do you understand that? I don't care what fucking reverend or what priest or whoever told you otherwise, but I'm telling you right now, that's not being a Christian. Now, you people out there that, you know, send these damn questions to me to try to trip me up and stuff, you need to understand. You don't understand. You don't know everybody in this country. You don't. You think you do, but you don't. You take one person that you don't like that's getting food stamps and you judge the whole damn bunch of people getting it for the same reason, okay? You're being stupid. You're being short-sighted. You're being very selfish. It's the same reason why some of these people, when they see somebody ahead of them in line paying for their groceries with SNAP, all of a sudden, oh, you got, you know, they have a fit. All right? You shouldn't be allowed to buy that. Buy what? Something that you can't afford? Because you're working a job where you're getting paid practically nothing, but you're too proud to go ask for SNAP? Is that what it is? Well, then you're taking your anger out on the wrong person, because it's not the person in the line ahead of you paying for their food with SNAP benefits that's the problem. The problem is the fucking job you got and them not paying you what you feel you're worth to get for the job you do, because it's too little and you're struggling, struggle all the fucking time. And when you're in that state of mind, you're angry and bitter all the fucking time. Yeah, you get angry when you see somebody easily pull out that card or whatever and use it. But, you know, you got to understand something. That's misplaced anger. And that's the reason why a lot of people in this country, when they vote the wrong way. It's because they take their blame of their woes, their issues, on the wrong people. They don't go after those that are actually doing this fucking shit. All right? That's why I kind of laugh at the people that say we need to protest Walmart, we need to protest Target, we need to protest the gas stations and that. And yeah, I'm saying, okay, you know what? You protest, and what's really happening? What change is there after that? You realize that you're just wasting time because nothing changes. They're not going to lower their prices. They're not going to listen to you. They're going to call the cops and have you escorted off their property. That's what happens. It doesn't mean anything. It might get you a little bit of a headline in the newspaper or on the local news station, but at the end of the day, corporations are in it for themselves, and you're the suckers. Okay? And being a sucker is also going after people who get SNAP benefits and not wondering why they need them. Okay? And for some of you people, you know why they're getting it, because you're almost in the same boat, but you just won't take the steps to go and apply to get those SNAP benefits. You'd rather attack someone that's getting it, but because you had been attacking these people, every time you see them now, you feel ashamed to go and get help. You know, you see, you box yourself into a corner by behaving that way. So, like I said, it's really arrogant when I get thrown that fucking question, because there's so much involved in what those benefits are than just somebody saying, well, if you're working, you don't need it. Yeah, really. Well, if you're working a job that's paying you $50 an hour, yeah, you probably don't need it. Okay, you probably wouldn't qualify to get it anyway if you were making that kind of money. But think about this for a minute. There's a lot of people at Walmart that still apply and can get SNAP benefits. There's a problem with that, isn't there? That's basically saying Walmart is paying slave wages to these people working there, and they still qualify to get SNAP benefits, because what they're getting is peanuts working there. Now, you want to cut these people off from their food, the food they get from on their SNAP cards? You want to do that when you know right off the bat they're not getting paid enough? Come on. Think about that. Think about this. People bitch about paying taxes. Why are taxes so high? Well, they're high because a lot of people in this country depend on those tax dollars to fund things like that. Now, if corporate America really gave a shit about America, then they would pay people what they're worth. They would give them some benefits to work there. They'd be competitive, okay, enough to get workers to work there. And by not doing that, they're pushing more and more people on the system, the government, to have to help and take out. Well, you want to cut down taxes, you want to cut down, wasteful spending, put these people to work in jobs that pay them the wage they need to live in this country. Then all of a sudden, they're not going to need SNAP anymore. Okay? Actually, they'll have to work to get the money that they need to buy their food. That should make you happy. But instead, you guys attack the people getting those benefits. That's ridiculous. It's like putting the cart before the horse. You guys are not thinking. Okay? It doesn't matter what they name this program. What matters is that it's being used. And it shouldn't have to be to this degree, to this percentage of our population. It shouldn't have to be like this, because there can be work out there if corporate America cooperated enough to hire people to work the jobs that they have. No, they want to get rid of workers. That's what they've been trying to do, because they don't want to pay you anything. They don't want to pay you nothing. So they get AI, they get robots, they get all these fucking ways to knock people off of their jobs. And now they're going after the white collar workers now. And these are the people who often are bitching about SNAP. Now, they're going to be those in line to get it. That means more tax money, which Trump is trying to cut. Okay? So, do you see where we're headed here? We're circling the rim of the toilet bowl. We're about to go down the drain here, and nobody seems to understand the complexities of this problem. They're all looking at it from the other end here, okay? The end of blaming those people in need, being unchristian. It's going to be a very expensive problem, not being Christian in a Christian nation. It's going to be a very expensive problem. You know, so people, you know, that are out there, you know, bitching about Snap and all that, you need to fucking wake up. When they say you need to get woke, you're goddamn right you need to get woke, because the reality of the world you live in isn't all hunky-dory with cherries, okay? There's problems out there that have been passed down from generation to generation that we haven't really dealt with and solved yet. And it's on our shoulders now that we need to take that chance to try and solve it. And we can't solve it if everybody's just shooting down every option available, okay? Because they don't trust it, or they don't, you know, for whatever reason they have, okay? Sub-steps have got to be taken. Yeah, right now we don't have the right regime in the White House to even accomplish that, because Trump is the swamp that he promised to drain in D.C. No, he is the swamp. The swamp took over Washington, D.C., and that's why there's so many people out of work. That's why there's so many people now getting food stamps. That's why, you know, everything is cratering here to what some people are saying. We're going to have the biggest depression since the Great Depression. We're going to have a bigger one than that coming up, okay? All because people, in their selfishness and their greed, okay, constantly taking from the mouths that people need to live, to eat, to pay their bills, the basics, taken from these people. What more can they give? Okay? What much more can they give? I mean, they've taken almost what they earn, okay, every year. It's ridiculous. People cannot afford to live like that. You know? They say, oh, the bankruptcies are up and all that. Well, of course. You know, follow the problem to its logical end. You know, stop thinking about the moment. Stop thinking about the person in front of you at the grocery store. Okay? Stop thinking about the person whipping out the card to pay for foods because, you know, they got a family or whatever. These people are struggling, and they're taking whatever lifeline they can get to get by, because without it, you know what happens. All right, last night, I guess Trump went nuts. And here's a little the story here about that. The MAGA cult leader took time out of his very busy day golfing at taxpayers' expenses to issue yet another signature holiday message for the Truth Social masses. This time, doing away with sarcastic niceties and fake well wishes altogether. The 79-year-old nincompoop in chief just cannot quit with his cockamamie 2020 election lies and one election theft accomplice, in particular, former Mesa County Clerk Tina Peters, who is currently serving a 9-year sentence in Colorado on state felony conspiracy and fraud charges. Trump, who issued a useless and performative federal pardon to Peters last year, cannot stand that his executive pardon powers do not extend to the state level, and his petulance is really starting to show. The wannabe dictator thumb-smashed, quote, "Hard to wish Tina Peters a happy new year, but to the scumbag governor and the disgusting quote-unquote Republican rhino DA who did this to her, I wish them only the worst. May they rot in hell." Just hours later, Trump could be seen cosplaying as an auctioneer at Mar-a-Lago, where he drove up the bidding price on a 10-minute speed painting of Jesus by a, quote, Christian worship artist, unquote, to $2.75 million. You can't make this shit up. Yeah, Tina Peters, okay, yeah, she really is pissed. I mean, her arrogance at thinking that Trump would run to the rescue, and when he tried, they say, your pardoning doesn't, work on the state level. Okay, it's only for federal charges that it works on. But because he doesn't know anything about the job that he sits in. This is why he does these stupid things and he screws up all the time. And then he gets mad and he blames, oh, everybody else. You know, no, it's your fault. You wanted to be president of the country. You needed to understand what that job is, okay? You needed to be educated to be able to have that job, to understand it. You had to have some experience as a politician to be able to have that job and understand what's involved in it, okay? But because you didn't, you were just a failed businessman who jumped into this fucking job and thinking you can run it like a corporation where you got one man at the top, okay, barking the orders. No, that's not the way it works. This is a guy who obviously never read the Constitution, has no idea what's in it, doesn't understand the Bill of Rights, probably knows nothing about what's in it. He just went in there with the only thing he knew, and that was to run a business. And when he wasn't very good at that, he ran all his businesses into the ground. Every damn one of them. Okay? And that's exactly what people are saying he's going to do to this country in a short time. He's going to do that. He's got us pretty well down, but we're, you know, he ain't done yet. But, you know, but Tina Peters, you know, that's been on his mind there because, like I said, they said that, no, she can't be pardoned. She's got to serve her 9 years. And, you know, there's a video on YouTube where the judge is talking to her before he sentenced her. You know, the judge really didn't like her at all, okay? You know, he listened to this arrogant woman talk to him, or, you know, and he just, you know, he was floored. A lot of people were floored by what she was saying. I mean, this is a deranged individual, this Tina here, okay? And, you know, her doing what she did and thinking it was righteous, you know, screwing around with the election process. You know, that's like, how can I compare this to? You know, it's like a thief after he robs your house, arrogantly standing up in front of a judge saying, you know, I have every right to do what I did, and there's a precedent here. You know, this is ethical. You know, standing there, you know, like that in front of the judge and telling him where the bear shits in the woods, okay, you know, and it's like, you know, this woman is fucking nuts. She is really a MAGA loon, because she doesn't see the world in the same way normal people do. She looks at it as a fucking mirror universe kind of thing. She's from like another dimension coming into our world, trying to run things her way, because she wanted her guy to win. So, yeah, she got 9 years, and rightly so. Okay, rightly so. I'd have evened it out to an even 10, for Christ's sake, you know. But she got 9 years. And, you know, nobody's going to be that interested in trying to get her out early. Okay, at least I don't think so anyway. She probably has loyalists outside that'll be making all kinds of a shitstorm and everything like that to try to force them to let her go. But the thing of it is that that's what you would expect from a bunch of cultists, really. You know, that supported Trump. I mean, and that's what they are. When right and wrong don't matter to these people, when breaking laws, crossing ethical lines doesn't matter to these people, it's a cult. You know, and what are we supposed to do with cults in this country here, by the way? Huh? When they do wrong, they have to answer to the law. That's why we got laws. Well, now they're just trying to take away those laws so they can do what they want. You get rid of the consequences, you can do what you want. You know, and Trump is showing them the way. But he ain't going to be there forever. He's not going to be in the White House forever. And these people, you know, if they think they're going to get pardoned by another president or something like that, you know, especially if it's Democrat, they can forget it. They're going to be spending the full length of their term in there, okay? And like I said, you know, because she was convicted on state charges, the president has no authority over that. So even if he pardons her, they don't have to let her go. They're going to keep her right there. He can scream and holler and bitch and rage on the internet all he wants. Ain't gonna matter. Okay. And this thing about him you know, at this goddamn auction. Was that all he was doing there, really? You know, what the hell was really going on there that he had this silly auction going on? You know, in Mar-a-Lago. Whenever he's at Mar-a-Lago, you know there's some nasty shit going on there. Really, think about that for a minute. This is a guy who's out and about, who played footsies with Jeffrey Epstein, has been actively trying to hide all the fucking, the really bad shit that he did. Okay? But he's out, he's free, he's out doing these things, and when he has these little parties, these soirees and stuff like that, what do you think is really going on in there? You know? I mean, wouldn't you like to know? Because if he thinks he can get away with what he did, then why is he going to stop? You know? That should give you a pause, I think. And, you know, it makes me wonder, is he still at it? Let's go to a commercial break. We'll be back.
I'm Alex Curtis. I'm a lobsterman in Maine, and this is me.
I'm Roxy Sugar, and this is me.
I'm Eric Hopkins. I'm an artist, and this is me.
This is me.
Me.
This is me.
This is me.
At the end of the journey, the main thing is you, original.
I met Donald Trump one time. It was a heavyweight fight in Atlantic City at one of his hotels.
Sure.
Billy Crystal and I went, and we met Donald. We said, hi, how are you? And I'm not exaggerating. I've been around a lot of actors, and they all have egos. I've never seen anything like this in my life. There's no actor I've ever worked with that comes even close to this man. It was all consuming. I mean, here's Billy Crystal and me. We're never asked, never interested in anything we had to do. It was all about him. And I thought, wow, what businessman has this big an ego? It's like WWE. But he's like a bad actor. Have you noticed that? When he quotes something that isn't him, and they're talking about Donald Trump, he goes, well, Donald Trump, bo, 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 bo. Every character is exactly the same. Well, Donald Trump, bo, 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 every time. And he always does that walk where he does like this, you know? Always.
My heart is so confused, my baby. Yeah. I think between the couple, girl. But I'm a few person of your love.
There's a storm out on the edges, you can feel it in the rain. The price of bread keeps climbing, and the workers bear the strain. You can hear it in the murmurs rolling through the quiet towns. Something old is cracking, something new is coming round. The tide is turning, the night is near done. You can't fool the sunrise, it still comes. They can steal, they can lie, they can try to divide, but the people remember, the tide's gonna rise. There are boots out in the alleys, cloaked in names of law, and those who sell their honor still pretend they're standing tall. But justice has a long reach, truth a longer spine. They'll face the light they ran from when their lies unwind. The tide is turning, the night is near done. You can't fool the sunrise, it still comes. They can scheme, they can hide, they can twist what's right, but the people remember, and the truth brings a light. Don't count this country down or out. There's fight left in the weary, there's grace beneath the doubt. We've been bruised, we've been burned, but we still know how to shout. We were built to turn the tables. Don't count us out. Now the bells are in the distance, ringing low but clear, calling every soul that's ever lost to gather here. From the dust and from the ashes, from the silence and the pain, we will raise a song together and begin again. The tide is turning, hear that sound, from the fields and the cities and the ghosted towns. Every hand, every heart, every wrong denied, they'll all be swept clean in the turning tide. Hold on, my friend, the tide is coming in.
Be a part of the entertainment value of a lifetime.
I loved it.
It was the best performance I've seen in a lifetime.
I loved the show. I liked it very much. He's a very entertaining man. It's well worth the money.
Now appearing in Charlottetown, coming to Halifax November 6th to the 18th, and St. John November 20th through the 26th.
Okay, welcome back, people. All right, this other little thing here. Health subsidies expire, launching millions of Americans into 2026 with steep insurance hikes. Congratulations, Donald Trump and Mike Johnson. You did it. You successfully screwed over tens of millions of Americans, many of whom voted for you and the Republican Party in multiple elections, and have created yet another calamitous and completely unnecessary financial crisis. Thanks to your heartless cruelty and stunning indifference and selfishness, health insurance premiums are set to skyrocket starting today. for millions of Americans who get their health insurance through the Affordable Care Act, otherwise known as Obamacare. The change affects a diverse cross-section of citizens who don't get their health insurance from an employer and don't qualify for Medicaid or Medicare, a group that includes many self-employed workers, small businesses, owners, farmers, and ranchers. We're sure everyone will be just fine with their premiums jumping by thousands of dollars per month. What with affordability no longer being an issue by way of magical presidential decree, on average, the more than 20 million subsidized enrollees in the Affordable Care Act program are seeing their premium costs rise by 114% in 2026, according to an analysis by the healthcare research nonprofit KFF. Truly the sign of a healthy country being run by selfless stewards governing for the greater good, right? Yeah, that's true. That's one of the things about January 1, is that it's a bad day for, to be on Medicare or Medicaid. Yeah. I feel like, it's, again, that's another sign of the lack of Christian soul that's in this country here. We don't have it. We just don't. At one time, it was easy to make a program to help people, like Social Security. We had people, even Republicans, who cared enough about this country not to watch it slip and die because, we don't care about the people living in this. You have to care about the people living in America for America to survive. When you cut the throats of all these people out there, your country ain't worth a shit. Where do you think these companies are going to, make their money if nobody can buy anything? How does that in capitalism work? And you can thank Trump for tarnishing the image of our country if you think corporations can sell their products to other countries. Nobody's going to want to do trade with us because we got a lunatic in the White House who's sitting here itching to start a war somewhere. Okay, who the hell's going to want to do business with? I mean, you got people right now who are trading away from the United States with each other, like in Canada and stuff like, to avoid the tariffs. Okay, these people are no longer going to include the United States in any fucking trade. So capitalism in America dies. These companies, they're going to have to plant themselves somewhere else if they want to survive. They can't stay here. So what was once a bad idea to get rid of work in this country is going to be the corporation's only salvation. And of course, Trump would let them do it, It was Joe Biden who was trying to bring work back into this country to try to get those companies that left the United States to come back to get people to work again. He was doing it the right way. But now Trump in there, he's doing the reverse. He's actually going to make it harder for people to help these companies to make money because they can't afford it. They can't afford the high prices. They can't afford getting paid peanuts. They need that money first to feed themselves, and what's left over, well, I guess it's not going to go to AT&T, it's not going to go to Spectrum, it's not going to go... People aren't going to be able to afford to buy a fucking thing. So Trump destroyed capitalism in this country. Okay? He has. This economy could be roaring right now. We come out of a pandemic. Biden had set the blocks in place, so that way we can start getting the economy really churning here. And Trump shut that off before it even had a chance to get going. So here we are, a country dying, our capitalism pretty much collapsed, and yet corporate America thinks that, people can still buy. Really? They can't buy anything from other countries because of the tariffs, so you cut them off from that source. And you've been jacking up prices in this country, expecting miracles that people are going to be able to buy your cars, buy your homes, buy this, buy... they can't do it. They can't do it. Okay? Your homes are going to sit there and rot. Your cars are going to sit there and rust. And no one's going to be buying anything new in this country for many years to come. Okay? Because you won't give as much as you want to receive. You won't give. If you want people to have money to spend on you, then you got to give them money to spend on you. That means they got to pay them the wages that they should have. You know, a child could understand this, but big corporations, for some reason, don't have that common sense that works in there like it does for everybody else. They don't see it because they don't know us. They don't recognize what you know, the bottom 90% have to live with every day. To them, you know, oh well, a couple of dollars more on gas, that's nothing. I can pay that. Well, if you can pay that, that's good. This guy over here can't. That extra $2 might mean he can't travel as much. But that doesn't matter to you as long as they can still travel to work, right? But if you take away that job, they're still going to have to pay the higher gas price, but they have nowhere to go. You see? It's just, you know, it seems crazy for me to have to sit here and explain this to people, especially the 30% out there that think I'm wrong and they're right. It's crazy that they can't see it, because I didn't have to go to college to understand that. A lot of these people have, and I don't know what happened. I really don't know what happened, because they come out of college with some pretty shifty ideas. Usually it's about how they can make money for themselves by taking it away from other people and thinking that it won't matter in the end. Well, it's mattering now, isn't it? Because a lot of those years of people doing that, it's caught up to us now. We're actually paying for the years of overspending, the years of people racking up credit card debt through the roof. We're paying for that now. Everything's come to a head here. You can't run a country like that in a deficit all the fucking time. You got to pay it down. You got to do something about that. And having trillions of dollars hanging over this country's head and devaluing our dollar in the process, that's a recipe for disaster. Okay, it's going to make it 10, 20 times worse coming out of that fucking problem the longer we still have people like Trump in there spending all the fucking taxpayer dollars on, like, doing like when he's going golfing and shit like that. Okay, it's going to come back on us. We're always getting shafted, and then at the same time, he wants to cut taxes on the people who could really keep the country going, but they don't want to do it. So they want America to die so they can keep all the money for themselves. So these people in capitalist sector of our country here, they ain't American. They gave up their right to call themselves an American the day they sat there and fired a whole bunch of people so they can have their money that they were paying. Okay, that right there is un-American. Okay, it ain't got a damn thing to do about putting on a uniform and fighting a war. It's about how people live, how we treat each other. That's what makes us American. And if people in this country are following in line behind that mentality, you're going to end up paying the price. You're going to be the one that's going to pay the hefty price. And I hope at that point you understand what I'm trying to tell you here. Because you can't run a country like that, always in the hole, and expect good things to happen. But that's what you've been told with people like Trump and the other assholes that work with him. They're constantly saying on the Fox News, oh, the economy's doing good and all. Prove it. Because everything I'm seeing here says the opposite. Okay? You know, I see what's going on, but I'm not going to believe what I hear from the likes of Trump. Okay? He's trying to tell me that it's raining out when it's sunny. Whatever. Okay, you know, it's just, it's lies upon lies. And we really ought to just, you know, understand that when he opens his mouth and he says anything, it serves his benefit and it's a lie. Okay? People really shouldn't listen to any speeches he gives or read anything that he makes on Truth Social. People really should ignore him, because you're not going to get anything useful out of that fucking guy's mouth, and he's not going to do anything for you that you need to see done. Okay, that's just how it is. I'm sorry that if that really brings you down emotionally because you love this man, I'm sorry. Okay, but not everybody you think is good is good. I mean, if there's one thing we just should have learned after these last 40, 50 years is that we've seen a lot of people we thought were icons, great people, and then all of a sudden something happens and then, oh, I can't believe he was doing that. It happens all the time, okay? Jesus. And because one of these people happens to be sitting in the White House doesn't mean that they're any better or you know, than anybody else. They're a human being. They got flaws, okay? This guy just happens to have more of them than most, all right? And he's screwing us up at the same time. He's putting his flaws and tripping us up with his flaws. So, you know, at some point you got to have to say, look, I can't follow this guy. He's killing me, okay? I can't do this thing anymore that he wants me to do. He's taking away my health benefits. He's cutting my fucking SNAP benefits. He's got, you know, all the states working to look for, you know, problems so they can cut back on taxes and stuff like, you know, by doing that, he's hurting everybody. I can't follow this guy anymore because he's destroying my fucking life. What do I owe him for that? You know? You know, so at some point you got to say, look, you know, I can't, if I got a family or something or, you know, whatever, I just can't do this. I can't sacrifice my children's futures. I can't sacrifice my livelihood because this guy talks like I can understand or that he agrees with my racism or something like that. No, you're taking a rope and you're slowly tying it around your neck, looping it over the rod, okay, and you're hanging yourself doing that. Some of you have already hung yourself, okay? Some of you people have already realized that you're finished financially because of Trump, what he's done. I'm talking about the farmers out there, okay? Some of these people have already realized they lost, and now they're just, you know, closing up and whatnot, and, you know, this is the way it is. People have spent, you know, family farmers out there that have been around for decades and stuff, who not once but twice voted for Trump. That's all it took. And now, you know, a lot of these places here are just, they're not producing anything now. And now you can see the result when you go to the grocery store, and I see it every time I go there. You know, the selections are fewer. You know, the amount of what's there on the shelves is less. You know, and the prices are going up. And they make you think, oh, this is a sale item. Yeah, right. It's still higher than the original price. You know? So, you know, like I said, this is a problem here. And, you know, like I said before, you need to wake up and recognize that this is not the way things work. You've been misguided. You've been misled. Okay? Wake up. Because you're dying. You're starving. Okay? You're walking on thin ice. You could lose your job tonight. And the cause of that can be traced right back to Donald Trump himself and what he's been doing. All right, so this other thing here, this will be the last thing. Trump unleashes a devastating hunger crisis on America's children. The brutal 200 million budget cuts to SNAP, here we go with SNAP again, stuffed in Trump's big awful bill have endangered millions of children and families with hunger and food insecurity. 40 million Americans, nearly half of them children, rely on SNAP for food. It is nothing short of abject cruelty to yank that life-saving assistance away from them in the name of fiscal responsibility. Nonprofit organization No Kid Hungry is working around the clock to make sure that food banks across the country have the resources they need to step up and keep America's kids fed. But with Trump's cruel cuts to SNAP and his price-hiking tariffs, their resources are stretched thinner than ever before. Yeah. Again, you know, they're expecting people to, you know, miraculously afford food, okay, when they don't have a job, or they have a job that really doesn't pay them a whole lot, okay? Less than minimum wage in most cases. You can't expect people to just all of a sudden, well, we can still go shopping for groceries. No. Okay? The idea that, you know, we see these people in the checkout lines using the SNAP card is proof right there in itself. Okay? That there is a need out there. And for some, the need expands beyond their own personal need. It includes children. Okay? So if you can look at a kid in the face and say, I'm taking away that fucking food you got, okay, you're the worst kind of person on this earth. Taking food out of the mouths of babies, okay? That's really that's sad. That's sad. I mean, and that's certainly not Christian, not in a fucking way. And frankly, if you go to church every Sunday and you think this way, I don't want to know you. I don't want to see you. I don't want to smell you, okay? I think you're bringing hell into that church by being that way. You don't deserve to be there. And any person, you know, a priest, you know, a reverend, whoever, that makes you feel like you can be that way, is themselves not worth being in that church. They're less than human, okay? I just, you know, it's like, you know, a mother, I mean, they say mother are attached to their children. It's like, you know, a mother cutting off, you know, feeding their babies and stuff like that. Because, I need that money for myself. Same fucking way. Same thing. You know, right there, the same way of thinking. I need that money for me. The hell with the kid. Kid can starve and die, but I need that money. and sadly, you know, I say that as a, you know, an example or, you know, a picture to try to illustrate how cruel that is. But there have been mothers in the past, and they've showed up on the news, you know, being arrested for putting themselves before their little children. Okay, like Susan Smith. I don't know how many are alive that still remember that. You know, and I can't think of the other person's name now. But you know, there's been many times where we've seen, you know, mothers putting themselves ahead of their kids, even trying to kill them just so they can get what they want. All right, and I feel like these are the people now running our country. Okay, that's the kind of people that Trump appoints to work for him, is people that think in selfish terms. Now, of course, if you follow the logic, these people will destroy themselves in the process, because if everyone is selfish, that means somebody is going to be trying to take from somebody already, you know what I'm saying? So they're going to be fighting with each other eventually, grabbing everybody else's whatever they got, because selfish people will turn on anybody, even the people that are like them. Okay, so naturally, when you know, you got Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert coming out against Trump, that's what I'm talking about. Because at one time they all supported Trump because they thought, oh, he thinks like me. That's right, he does. That means you all have the same problem. You all got the same flaw, and in the end, there's only going to be one of you left standing. Okay, that's not the way a government is supposed to work. But this is the way Trump is making it work. And there's no conclusion to this that doesn't end with disaster. You see? That's why it can't work. That's why this regime, I call it, why this regime can't work. It cannot function. There's no good that'll come out of it, ever. Because it's flawed right from the get-go. So, anyway, let me see this other, let me talk to this other article here. I thought that was going to be about now. Trump retreats on National Guard deployments in Chicago, Los Angeles, and Portland. Well, what do we have here? Donald Trump said he's finally dropping his crusade to deploy National Guard troops in Chicago, Los Angeles, and Portland, Oregon, a move that comes after multiple legal roadblocks in that pesky U.S. Constitution continually gummed up his farcical stunt. None of the local law enforcement agencies responsible for policing the Democrat strongholds requested federal backup, of course, but that was clearly beside the point. The MAGA cult leader had a show to put on, and he needed federal boots on the ground for dramatic effect or something. The real question at this point is, who will protect the citizens of Chicago, Los Angeles, and especially Portland from marauding hordes of 6-foot-tall frogs and chickens? Yeah, you know, you see the pushback. I was just saying about how this regime can't work, because when you're stepping on other people's toes all the time, and you're fighting with people that are working for you because they think the same way you do, there's no end result that this wins. Okay, It's like, you know, if you think about World War II, Nazi Germany, Hitler in charge, and if you think about it, yeah, he got far with his war, but it was doomed to fail. It was doomed to fail no matter what. Even if he'd managed to, quote unquote, conquer the world, his own flaws, his own people that he surrounded himself with, they would have ate each other alive, you know. And I mean, you remember there was some assassination attempts made on, which meant there was already a movement inside his regime to topple him. People were getting pissed. They want, you know, the selfishness or whatever you want to call it as the motive. They, you know, this was a regime that was doomed to fail because of flawed thinking. You know, a flawed people working in a job that they didn't deserve or should have been appointed to. Okay. And they just couldn't maintain it for long. I mean, it was just, you know, plus, you know, Hitler being as mentally damaged as he was, you know, he couldn't fight a war. I mean, he never had training enough to be able to lead a war, and he wanted all the decisions for himself. He didn't want to hear the advice from his generals. He was doing it all on his own. Okay, basically. And so, like I said, it's an example of how a bad leader with bad followers can really trip up their own works, you know. Let me think of another, you know, like Putin. Okay, again, just because he was a KGB agent doesn't mean he was qualified to lead on a national scale. In fact, what he's been doing here, militarily speaking, has been a big disaster. From all analysis by people in our own military, they look at what Putin is doing as it was reckless. Everything he's done is reckless, which is why he's suffered big losses so far against a country that, you know, he could have been able to defeat in a much shorter time if he knew what he was doing. You know, but the fact that he started off with a military that really was outdated and he didn't really have a lot of, you know, proper equipment. A lot of it was like 30, 40 years old, you know, and the people he was hiring were not like the best, you know, to be in uniform. You know, there was a lot wrong with that operation before it even started. So yeah, he suffered some losses, big losses here in this fight with Ukraine. And if it wasn't for help, you know, and supplies coming from other countries to help out Ukraine probably eventually would have fallen by now. But you know, obviously they got better leadership on their side to know what to do and what they can't do. You know, but it seems like as far as Russia goes, they just don't have the leadership to be able to mount an invasion of that scale and try to take a country. They can't do it. You know, and their economy's suffering just like, you know, Iran's economy's suffering, and a lot of countries' their economy's suffering. So, you know, it's just, it's sad that, you know, we were actually doing good until Trump got in there. We were recovering from the pandemic quite well, despite what you might have already thought or what you believe Trump told you about it. The numbers don't back his mouth up. Okay, they were showing that there was growth in this country, and some people were saying it was growing a little too fast because, you know, they were worried that could cause problems. But the point is that, you know, we were on better footing, and the rest of the world was trying to catch up to us, and now we're way behind the rest of the world now. You know, and it's sad because a bad election can change the course of history in this country from the better to the worse. And we're living the worst. We're living the path that we didn't want to go down, or at least most of us didn't anyway. But, you know, that's neither here nor there now. We got 3 more, we got this year, 2 more years to go after this with this guy, and we still have midterms coming up here. And so hopefully we can make some kind of a course correction here with that, and maybe try to get us back to where we were in 2024. Maybe, you know, who knows. Anyway, that's it for today. So I hope everybody has a great rest of the week and upcoming weekend. So subscribe, comment, share. Keep your ears open for health issues. And treat each other kind out there. Try to be helpful. Try to be a Christian, a real Christian, okay? If you see somebody in need, help them out. Help them out, okay? You know, if you've got a little bit extra to spare, help them out, okay? There's no point in being selfish, because one day it could be you that's standing in the unemployment line. It could be you standing there trying to get SNAP benefits, okay? It could happen just like that. No job is secure anymore. Those days of working for 20 years or 25, 30 years at a job and getting benefits, that's gone. That doesn't happen anymore now in this country. Those days are gone. Every job is up for grabs. Every job can disappear. So please keep that in mind. And I'll talk to you guys later.